I think one of the things that struck me was on the second page about Rabbi Eliezer talking about that the prayer not appear like a burden, that something be inserted fresh in it. And growing up, even Lutheran, we still said prayers pretty rote, like sometimes I feel within Jewish context. But as a chaplain, I have been most taught by evangelical Christians about how to pray freshly all the time, all the time.
How to pray what?
Freshly. Because he says insert something fresh into it. And they know how to do that. Lord.
So in our group, we really talked about the way in which we might use some of these teachings in interfaith settings as opposed to inserting them into a Jewish prayer service. And that, and I was saying that, for example, when I do interfaith marriage, I will include the Lord's Prayer, and for the Jewish side, I'll say that there's nothing here that is, that's problematic for us. And it's an honoring of, your future spouse's, where he's coming from or where she's coming from.
When I read the English translation of our Jewish prayers, it sounds Christian.
say something about that because my English, as you hear, is not my mother tongue. For me, prayer is in Hebrew. And I have trouble sometimes with the translation. And I have to say to myself, the way that it's for translation for me to say it in English is for other people, most people, to say it in Hebrew. So that was really helpful for me to be able to actually do the laning or the reading of the Megillah. We were talking with Jack yesterday about, reading Megillat Esther. I read it in Hebrew, nobody would understand. But, and the thing is, listen, it doesn't say hear the noise. So I think that that is, really being able to, and it's a little bit what we were saying about finding the meaning in the prayer that the rabbis say here, it shouldn't be fixed, is that finding it's not just the words, but the language. And it's not just, we always go with the spiritual language, but I think that we need to remember also the language, like the one we grow up with.
Yeah, so I guess I'm reacting to responding to what you were saying. It's not only to include something like this in say, in an interfaith marriage or some other situation. It's not even only to honor the non-Jewish spouse, but because these are Jewish teachings. They are Jewish teachings, so
There were no Christians.
because there weren't Christians at the time.
At all,
that
when this text came into being. So there were only Jews writing Jewish prayers for Jews.
So I guess the comment I wanted to make was that this prayer, in a sense, is another one of the short prayers. The Tosefta didn't have to record it, but it's another one of the short prayers that one of the other Chachamim were writing. Very interesting, thank you.
And the rest of the time, we'll take a few more and then time constraints.
Thank you. I just wondered if we know why this particular prayer stuck so long. If it stuck so hard, it became like this one of the central prayers. Do you know much about that?
Only what you might imagine.
It's terrible.
It's in the gospel.
But
It's in the gospel.
it
Yeah.
got written down.
Yeah.
It got written down.
It stuck long enough to get there.
Yeah.
This version.
Oh, I should start on this. Somebody raise your hand.
I'm really thrown away. I always knew about Jesus as challenging the status quo, justice seeker, and all. But now I see him as like an early Baal Shem Tov, like a renewal, like a prequel. He's like in this lineage. I mean, it's kind of blowing my mind. What we're doing here is what he's intending to do with prayer, making it accessible. Oh, yes.
I just want to say during Bert Jacobson's teaching yesterday about Jesus, when I said teacher, I'm trying to think of it.
Jewish wisdom.
He sees him with the Baal Shem Tov connection.
There is a hand behind you, and I guess there's one in front of you too. It's hard to see behind you. So let's come back over here when we can.
In our conversation, one of the things that we highlighted was the piece about forgiveness, that in terms of the contemporary practice of reciting this prayer and the impact in a Christian setting of this having become a daily recitation, sort of the impact of sort of absorbing that message in a way that it's in our midweek Amidah, and it's there in our Vigili at night, but for many living in progressive circles, that's not part of their actual practice. So it gets, we know it's the theme of the High Holy Days, but there's so many words there that the centrality of the spiritual practice of forgiveness, there's something here that we could be thinking about how to make that more front and center as daily practice for those who don't recite them as part of their tefillah practice.
Hi, first I'm fascinated by your story and how everything is connected. I'm fascinated by his geniuses, taking the bits of the essence of prayer and putting it into one short, concise prayer. Here you go, you have this practice. Just to see how Jesus was thinking about the people, what the people needs are. That's fascinating to me. But then on the other side, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit contrarian, that's the way my brain works. This has become like the tikva, the anthem of Christianity. I don't know if I would be a Christian person, if I would like to see, like, hey, we also have this connection. Kind of, I admire this as a piece of work, but I wanted to stay Christian because I honor what they represent as an anthem as something so important to them. And I like kind of to see, yes, you practice this and we practice that, and it's all good and it's connected. But I like kind of the boundary, or like, yes, I'm sorry, but and I like to see. I like to see I love the richness and where it comes from, but I want to honor the Christian tradition and say, yes, this is your thing, and we have ours. Like, I would not feel so good if some Christian theologian would say, hey, your Amidah is actually something that we have. Yes, it's all similar. I don't know, I'm like in between.
Take a few more and then we want to respect the time, because I would love to stay with you and do this for another hour. And he'll call, I see there's a couple of hands up, and then we're going to sing and close.
Yeah, I would like to continue on what you said, and I made it clear also in my group. I would, I learned a little bit about the Lord's Prayer before, and in Jesus in comparison with the Mishnah, and for example the Qumran texts, and what was all the discussion in that time. And so it was a time of enormous changes, many groups, so this reacts to something. And I would also say it's not enough to say these are all Jews, so maybe we should consider ourselves as the rabbinic side, which became the rabbinic interpretation. They became the Christian interpretation. And for example, forgive us the debts or the sins. I talked in Germany with a Christian economic philosopher, and he explained to me in Greek, this means the real debts, the credits, and the creditors. So it's not the sins or the debts, I insulted you, something like that, but this is really about credits, how do you call it in English, when you talk? Loan, and how do you call that? The interest. This is about this. So it's actually a conservative saying, because in those days people were allowed to invest, take credits. We know in the Mishnah they started a new look upon the Torah about the thing, not taking a loan, not taking a credit. So I like it to speak with Christians about the differences and find out what were they reacting to, and then it's a nice thing to speak about the different possibilities how to interpret Torah. So that's my issue with the Lord's Prayer. So it is a Jewish prayer, but it's not a rabbinic prayer. It's another way.
Used to say about this prayer. It was his opinion that this was probably already a very known prayer, not something that Jesus extemporaneously wrote like a slam poet, but that when they asked, show us how you pray, that he put his talents over his head and went deeply inside. He said the words everybody knew, but went into the prayer state. That was his instruction.
So one way to think about this formulation as not improvisational in the moment, but as something that people were already using showed them not only the words, he taught not only the words, but he taught the interiority. He taught them how to pray. The Brahman would always say, if you want to learn to daven, stand next to a governor.
If what?
If you want to learn how to daven,
Stand
you
next to.
stand next to a davener, so that like a tuning fork, you learn how to resonate on that frequency. And perhaps you could say that Yeshua ben Yosef was always teaching people how to resonate on a frequency that he was able to attune himself to internally, and that people found to be quite extraordinary. So beautiful friends, I'm going to send you back with this taste treat into the rest of whatever unfolds for you as we sing together. Avun Deva Shemaya, Avun Deva Shemaya, Avun Deva Shemaya, Avun Deva Shemaya, Mikadash Shema, Mikadash Shema, Mikadash Shema, Mikadash Shema.